Good evening. I will open the City Commission meeting for the City of Johnson City on Thursday, May 5th, here in the Commission Chambers. And tonight, our invocation is being given by Randy Hensley, Executive Director of Coalition for Kids, and also the pastor at the Rock Fellowship. And if you'll remain standing for the pledge after this.
I want to tell you all that I'm not the only one praying for you. Our church prays for you every Thursday night. I teach a Bible class, a Bible lesson at the church, and we pray for you every Thursday night. Excited about what's going on in the city and the energy that's around it. So if you would, let me pray for you now. Father, as we join all over the place on the internet, watching, standing in this space, and we prepare to go through a time where we're going to conduct some business, we want it to honor you as much as we want to do anything. Matter of fact, more than we want to do anything. We pray that when we're done, that our hearts are right and our minds are clear. We pray that we are brothers and sisters together, walking hand in hand down a clear, unified path. For with that, we can do all things. With you, we can do all things. So I thank you for these leaders, each one, for what they represent, for who they represent, and that you will allow us to continue to live in a city that absolutely is special, uncommon. Continue to bless us. We ask all this in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Ball?
Vice Mayor, your first order of business is consideration of the approval of the minutes for the regularly scheduled commission meeting held on Thursday, April 21st, 2022.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Commission, your next order of business is proclamations and resolutions.
Three tonight. First is proclamation for childcare providers appreciation day. Come on up. Welcome. Why don't y'all introduce yourselves first?
Hi, my name is Anne Marie Cornelson.
And I'm Ashley Stockton.
I will read your proclamation. Whereas child care providers are entrusted to provide quality early childhood education and care for our most precious treasure, our children, and whereas child care professionals play an important and under-recognized role in cultivating, supporting, and educating young children in a warm, loving, and culturally competent environment, and whereas during the COVID-19 pandemic, when so many businesses were closed or altered operations to mitigate risk, child care providers persevered and provided consistent and nurturing care for the children of essential workers. And whereas Johnson City recognizes child care providers as an essential workforce in our economy that allows families access to necessary care so they can work. And whereas Johnson City will join families and organizations nationwide in recognizing child care providers, teachers, and educators for their efforts in caring for the children of working parents and providing them with quality early childhood experiences. And now, therefore, I, Todd Fowler, for Joe Wise, Mayor of Johnson City, do hereby proclaim May 6th as Child Care Providers Appreciation Day in Johnson City and encourage all citizens to recognize family child care providers throughout the state for their dedication to providing quality care and learning services and for the important role they play in our children's future. Once you have that, you're welcome.
Thank you. This means a great deal to me personally. I am an early childhood educator for 28 years. And thank you for valuing our hard work and for recognizing our dedication to serving working children and families in our community and in communities all over the country.
Covered it.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Nurse Appreciation Week. I know we have some visitors with us. Hey there. How are y'all? Y'all can introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christy Hall. I'm Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs at East Tennessee State University.
And hello, I'm Lisa Smithgaw. I'm the Chief Nurse Executive for Ballad Health.
I'm honored to be a physician and get to do this for y'all too. So, whereas the largest healthcare profession in the United States is nursing, with more than 3.8 million registered nurses nationwide, and whereas nurses must have the strength to care for patients during times of disaster and crisis, the compassion to provide hands-on patient care at the bedside, in offices, in homes, in communities, and teaching students, and all possess the commitment to remain involved in continuing education throughout their careers. And whereas the demand for registered nursing services is increasing due to the aging American population, the expansion of life-sustaining technology, the explosive growth of home health services, and a renewed emphasis on primary, preventative, and long-term health care, and whereas National Nurses Week is celebrated annually from May 6th to 12th in conjunction with the birthday of Florence Nightingale, the founder of modern nursing, and is a time to show appreciation for the nurses who strive to provide safe, high-quality health care. And whereas locally, more than 3,300 registered nurses work at Ballad Health, with an equal number teaching and providing care in numerous sites, providing compassionate, expert health care to the people of the Appalachian Highlands every day. And whereas, while these nurses have always put forth outstanding effort and care for their patients, their skills, dedication, and passion were never more evident than during the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas the pandemic response from the Appalachian Highlands nurses and other healthcare workers showcased their bravery and resolve and unquestionably saved countless local lives. Now, therefore, I, Todd Fowler, Vice Mayor of City of Johnson City, in cooperation with National Observance and the American Nurses Association, do hereby proclaim May 6th through the 12th as Nurse Appreciation Week in Johnson City, and encourage our citizens to honor nurses of every specialty and to recognize the role they play in caring for our residents. Thank you all. You want to say something?
I'll just say thank you very much on behalf of my faculty colleagues and nursing students at East Tennessee State University, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of our nursing colleagues across the Appalachian Highlands area. We thank you very much for the proclamation and all that you all do to support nursing in the community. Thanks so much.
Let's give a stand.
Appreciate you very much. Next is Kids to Parks Day. So some representatives from Parks and Rec here. So y'all can introduce yourselves too.
I am April Norris.
Hi, I'm Sam Miller.
Glad to have y'all here. Whereas the National Park Trust organizes and launches Kids to Parks Day every third Saturday in May, with May 21st being the 12th occurrence. Whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit local parks, public lands, and waters. And whereas children should be encouraged to lead a more active lifestyle to combat issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and hypercholesterolemia. And whereas Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and outdoors. And whereas Kids to Parks Day will recognize the importance of recreating responsibly while enjoying the benefits of the outdoors. Now, therefore, I, Todd Fowler, for Joe Wise, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, do hereby proclaim May 21st as Kids to Parks Day in Johnson City and encourage families and children to enjoy Johnson City's many parks on this day and throughout the year. Congrats. There you go.
Thank you all so much for recognizing this day. It's great to partner with the National Park and Trust to be able to offer a fun event for our community to get all of our kids and families out into our parks. And Sam will tell you a little bit about it.
Hey, so our recreation team has done a phenomenal job organizing an event to commemorate the day. We'll have a scavenger hunt through more than 5 of our parks where families can get out and get engaged in the parks. We'll have staff present. It's going to be an excellent time, and we'll even have prizes that are more geared towards, you know, pavilion rentals and some pool parties to even further get people engaged in the park system, and we just can't wait for the day. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good luck.
Commission, your next order of business is the consideration of approval of a temporary occasion license for Johnson City, Jonesboro, Washington County Chamber Foundation, located at 602 Sevier Street, number 101, Johnson City, Tennessee.
We have someone present. Can you give us your name and your address?
I am Bob Cantler. I reside at 1911 Sherwood Drive, Johnson City, Tennessee.
Have you read the rules and regulations covering the state of, the sale of alcohol in the city of Johnson City?
Yes, I have.
Do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes, we will.
All right, you want to
I move that we approve.
second? I have a motion and a second. To have any discussion? Ms. Jennings? you read the
Commissioner
roll.
Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. Would you like to tell us about your event?
This will be a fundraiser for Fridays After 5, which you'll be hearing more about later this evening. And this will be for the YPJC program that you've invested in, for that group to have this fundraiser on this evening in June. It's June the 11th. I'll have to confirm that. But the group is, you'll be hearing more from them in June about what's going on with YPJC. And actually, I will be back up in probably in a few weeks to give an update on the population and the demographic changes and all that that we're having in the community. So look forward to bringing that back to you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.
Commission, your next order of business is consideration of approval of a temporary occasion license for Johnson City Morning Rotary Foundation.
Would you state your name and your address for us?
I'm Samantha Dishner, 420 Tipton Lane, Bluntville, Tennessee.
Have you read the rules and regulations covering the sale of alcohol in Johnson City?
Yes, I have.
Do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. Would you like to discuss what you're doing with Rotary?
We will be serving beer on July 29th for the Johnson City Morning Rotary Foundation, raising money for different things that we do in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Commission, your next order of business is the approval of 9 temporary occasion license for Connect Downtown Johnson City.
We appreciate you coming and doing 9 at one time also. just to let you
Yes,
know.
I'm happy to do that.
Would you state your name and address?
Lindsay Jones, 300 East Main Street, Suite 102.
Have you read the rules and regulations covering the sale of alcohol in Johnson City?
Yes, I have.
Do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes, I do.
Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. Would you like to discuss your 9 events we're having?
Well, all of the beer permits that were before me are all for Fridays after 5, and we actually start next week, next Friday on the 13th. So please come out. It's going to be a good crowd each week. We'd love to see you. If you ever want to volunteer, please let me know. That's it.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a random question.
I
Do you
do
have any
too.
more May the 4th mugs?
I may have one left just for you.
I
May the
appreciate
4th be
you.
with you.
Yes.
How
I,
did-
I literally only have one left, so
Okay.
I'll make sure I put your name on it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dear, most of the music groups local.
We have a wide variety of regional and out of the region artists coming this year. My goal was to book some bigger bands to bring in larger crowds. If we can have more people at these events, they're spending more money in our district. So I'm trying something a little different this year.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Great,
Appreciate it.
thanks.
Commission, the next 2 items are consideration of beer license applications for Sodoxo operations. One is located at the Martin Center. The second is located at Thomas Stadium. I think you'll have to take 2 separate votes on them, but
Okay.
I think you can consider hearing them in one motion, or in one,
2
at one
motions,
time.
but one time. All right. Good evening. Can you state your name and your address for us?
Yes, sir. Kelvin Tarakwasha. Our address is 1320 West State of Franklin.
All right. So I guess we'll do the first one is the Martin Center. So have you read the rules and regulations covering the sale of alcohol in Johnson City?
Yes, sir.
Do Do you agree to abide by these rules?
Yes, sir.
All right, do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. And I'm not going to ask you the same question, but we're going to cover Thomas Stadium in the next one. And do you still agree that you read the rules and you know them?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
And a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. Would you like to discuss? I know both places are going to be happy to be able to sell beer at baseball games and at all the events at the Martin Center.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for your support for ETSU and Go Bucks.
Go Bucks. Thanks, Al. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Commission, your next order of business is to consider a beer license application for Head Case LLC Tiebreakers at 1805 North Rhone Street.
Can you state your name and your address for
My
me?
name is Ron Ison Jr., 1805 North Rome Street.
Have you read the rules and regulations covering the sale of alcohol in the city of Johnson City?
Yes, sir, I have.
Do you agree to abide by these rules?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would just say I missed the ribbon cutting, and I'm sorry I missed that. I heard just some really great things about what you're doing out there. And
Thank you.
we need more for our young people to do to get them engaged and entertained, and we appreciate you coming here and investing.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity. Johnson City is a special place for me. I'm from here. Our investment group is out of Gatlinburg and Carter County. It's a father-son operation. It was their dream to do this. And this business, most businesses are segmented and focused towards certain groups. This business is all about anybody from Johnson City can come in there and have a good time. We've got over 100 games, 150-seat restaurant, 8 professional bowling lanes with a $400,000 lighting system, the largest 4G TV screen in America right now, over 60 televisions. It's a multi-million-dollar investment for the city, for us, in this city. But I will say this, none of it could have happened without the support of the city. Nothing's ever been built like this here. So it was a learning experience with us and the city. If it hadn't been for Mr. Cannon, Ms. Whaley, Fire Marshal Group, all those people, would have never happened. So I thank them.
I know Mrs. Ball and myself and Commissioner Murphy all were there that night, and I know I enjoyed myself quite a bit while I was there, so
Yes, you did.
I will be going back, so.
We may have to go back as a group and have a little competition
wouldn't
out
be
there.
bad.
Yeah.
We would love to see that competition. I would love to see one compete against Dr. Fowler in bowling. That would be nice to see.
I know we haven't called the roll yet. Ms. Jennings, would you do that?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. If you want to tell us more about the place, you're welcome to.
Just, it's a multi-purpose facility. It's a business that has been a dream for this family for many years. It's literally the whole side of a shopping center. It takes the place of 9 retail centers at one time. Everything we do in there is big, everything. And you're going to see extravagance. You're going to see even the smallest things like group rooms where children can have birthday parties, and the one with the birthday rolls her ball down the lane, and there's a flame that'll follow the ball, and it'll say happy birthday and that individual's name going down the lane. It's an extravagant lighting system. There's over 20 miles of wire in this building.
When do you all actually open to the public?
We're soft now. We are hard 11 o'clock Saturday morning at the ribbon cutting,
Great.
and we'd love to have y'all come.
We even have like axe throwing and putting and.
We do have axe throwing.
Just lots of fun things to do in there.
It's different.
So the actual ribbon cutting is Saturday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what y'all went to was a
It was practice.
pre-practice?
Yes.
It was a really good practice day. It's a lot of
We
practicing
figured if we
going
could
on.
make them happy, we could probably do.
11 o'clock Saturday morning? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, we'd love to have you.
May be there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
all.
it.
Thank you for your support.
Commission, the next order of business is a road closure request for the Blue Plum Festival, and Andy is here.
Good evening. We've got Blue Plum with us this evening, and Blue Plum is requesting closures of Commerce Street, Market Street, Main Street, and Wilson Avenue as outlined in the provided site plan from Friday, June 3rd at 5 a.m. until Saturday, June 4th at 11:30 p.m. Special Events Committee, including Traffic, Police, and Public Works, have reviewed the site plan and find the closures appropriate and safe, and we would recommend approval.
Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion for sure.
I'll second. I have a motion in 2 seconds, actually. Any discussion?
I'm just excited to see Blue Plum coming back.
And Ms. Lockmiller, you've been here before, so. Yeah,
Commissioner Brock?
yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes, if you'd like to tell us, this is your time.
I would love to. I actually brought my phone up, not so I could read my text or Facebook, but so I could read you all the lineup, which has just been released.
Perfect.
Starting out with Wildorado, Driving and Crying, Illiterate Light, which is an amazing, I think it's just 2 people, but they have a bike, use bikes to generate all the electricity that is used while they're performing, so we are going to
Like Pelotons out there?
bicyclists, biking for an hour. We're working with Trek and some of the other biking groups to get people who are going to be willing to bike at that speed for about an hour while they perform, so that's going to be a really interesting one. The Vagabonds, I think that's Vagabonds, Mo Lauda and the Humble, Hotel Fiction, Akita, Brushfire Stank Grass, Grizzly Goat, Sam Colley and the Roustabouts, Adam Bolt, Fritz and Company, Donnie and the Dry Heavers, Morgan's Mill, Shake It Like a Caveman, Zach McNabb and the Beekeepers. We're also going to have a different take on a 5K this year. Instead of it being a whole street closure thing, that it's going to be more laps kind of thing, so it'll be within the festival area and not going to require street closures. Our silent disco will be back because that is much more fun to watch than it is to do. Well, it's fun to do, but it's fun to watch. So hope to see you all there. I'm wearing this is our last festival shirt, 2019. We are back after a 2-year break, and we're very excited.
Did you really say Donnie and the Dry Heavers?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard.
Those are some good bands, some of them. Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
very good, thank
We're
you.
ready. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you all.
Glad to have you back.
Thanks.
And Andy, I think if you could stay up with us, the next item is a road closure for the WCJC Animal Shelter.
So Washington County and Johnson City Animal Shelter request a partial closure of King Street as outlined in the provided site plan for their chain-free dog event on Saturday, May 21st from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Special Events Committee has reviewed, including Traffic, Police, and Public Works. So we recommend approval.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. Would you like to tell us about the event?
Yes, so this is actually an educational event, not only for the citizens of our community, but the surrounding communities. All of the local animal shelters, rescues are participating in this event. We are going to have booths set up, and the goal is to be able to provide information to the community of the resources that are available to help them better take care of their pets. We have a representative from the Humane Society of America that we have a Chewy truck, a transfer trailer truck of food and toys that we are going to give out as a community gift to everyone. So,
Very nice.
And folks, this is our Executive Director of the Washington County Johnson City Animal Shelter, Tammy Davis, and does an amazing job with the 4,000 plus animals we see through the shelter on an annual basis. Yeah,
Thank you for being here. Thank you for having the event.
ready to go.
Commission, the next item of business is the consent agenda.
All right, now I'm going to start to my right.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner
I'd like to pull item 7.4.1.
Anything else? All right. Next.
7.1.3.
Commissioner Hunter.
7.3.1.
All right, and those are the 3 I was going to have pulled, so that's it.
Great minds think alike.
Mm-hmm. So first, I guess we'll go in order with 7.3.1.
7.1.3.
Sorry, 7.1.3.
Yeah. It's the conveyance of
East
the
Myrtle
property of
Avenue.
East Myrtle.
Oh, thank you. I think I was expecting someone from Eastern 8.
This is
Okay.
Easton A. He's taking her place
I'm sorry, I
tonight.
was expecting a female, so I said not, should not. I was-
We all know this guy, too. It's
Okay, thank you.
So, but yeah, Sherry had a family situation coming up
Okay.
this evening, she couldn't make it, so. but-
Appreciate you being here.
But anyway, I'm Kip Parks, I'm representing the Eastern 8 tonight, so I'm open, I guess, whatever questions you might have.
I pulled it just so the public could hear what the project is, what we're
Okay.
doing, how the city and Eastern 8's partnering over in that particular area, and maybe just give a little idea of what kind of property is going to
An
be
idea.
built there.
I think they had sent a picture, I don't have one available, but we're going to build a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home on the site. It's going to have, be vinyl siding with the drawn-on brick on the side. The front porch, it looks like it's going to be like a 6-by-8-foot front porch. And on the front porch, I guess the eve area, we're going to put the shake shingles up, or, not shake shingles, but looks like shakes on the siding of that piece of it. There will be a 30-year architecture shingles put on as well on that. I think there was some question about an extra window in the front, and I think we've agreed to put that extra window in the front. I think there will be a back or an excess off the alleyway, and there's a side door, and I think there was some concern on that about having a cover over it, so I think we can get that arranged. We'll address that issue to have it sort of spruced up and covered up there. And that's basically it will be a rental property that we will be putting in there. Market rate right now is about $1,600 on that. Our rental rate will probably be around $700 on that property. The resident that would be, or residents that would be living in it, they will be under either somewhere between 50 and 80% of the AMI for the area, and that's what that will be based upon on that. We will be taking a construction loan out to build the home from that, but we do have some $149,600 from the home consortium that will go back towards that once we get it built in. So that's pretty much what I've got.
If someone's interested, how do they make application, or what do they need to
Okay.
do to be?
D&K Properties are the one that manage all of our properties at Eastern 8, so they could go through D&K. I think there is some waiting list. I think we had sort of discussed that earlier, but that will be where they would be directed to.
Well, I think one of the conversations we've been having as a commission and with our city manager is just the lack of affordable housing in Johnson City. And so with our partners like Eastern 8 and Habitat and Appalachian Service Project, we're at least getting some.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be enough, but it's a good start, and we thank you for your partnership. And
Well, thank you.
look forward to seeing a very attractive home over there.
We look
I
forward
want
to
to
it
come
as
sit
well.
on the front porch. I'm
You-
kind
you
of the
can.
front porch addict.
All right.
Further question, Mr. Parks? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And then 7.3.1?
And I think that Assistant City Manager Stahl will be up to address the next item. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kev.
Hey, Charlie. Mr. Stahl, you doing all right? I provided some pictures to the city manager to pass down. I wish I had my overhead, but this shows you what I'm about to present is the track at Kermit Tipton Stadium was initially constructed, surfaced back when we built the stadium in 2010. And if you remember last year, we replaced the field turf, which was in its 11th year after much use. And the track is in a similar situation. The track is now 12 years old. Again, it was last resurfaced in 2010. And the pictures are just a sample of what you would see out there. And this has been on the capital plan, presented to you in budget process a year ago. And we are now bringing this to you with the recommendation that we, go into a direct purchase with Field Turf. We went through the state Tennessee Cooperative Purchasing Network to make this possible, and the project cost is $354,420 plus a stipend for payment and performance bond. This project has been very difficult to fit into the schedule, and just because of timing and the use of our athletic facilities, which, as you know, are not around the clock necessarily, but they're throughout 12 months out of the year. So we're going to fit this in at the end of May. It'll be a 3 to 5 week project.
Of this May, 22?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that was our big concern. This was originally portrayed to us as something that would not be able to be started before fall or next spring. So the schedule has presented itself much earlier than we thought. But if you look at the capital plan a year ago, the cost was about $261,000. So the escalating prices, this reflects that. Our concern, and if you look at the contract that they sent us, it was a condition that if we, the price was valid for 30 days if we commit to it. So it's important that if we commit to this now, we have the opportunity to move forward versus delay it. We just cannot have a assurance that the prices are going to be anywhere in the ballpark. So we don't like the fact that this is escalated to the level it has, but we're concerned about the future as well. So it is needed. Athletic Director Turner has certainly recommended this to you all in the past, and it's staff recommendation that this should be approved and move forward.
So it will be completed by the end of May, or it'll start?
No, start.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long will it?
Roughly a 5-week project. And again, that's stripping the track and resurfacing it and striping it and any other ancillary work that's necessary around there.
I think Tom Hager had a special request that it be black.
Yeah, he has a few requests, that's right. And so we're,
Do you know how long tracks this will last? How long? This one lasted 12 years, and I don't know that they're supposed to last 12 years.
They're not. I mean, I think what we were originally told, if you get 10 years out of a track, and again, every school's different, as you know, and use is obviously dependent on the wear and tear sometimes, as well as the original job of the contract when it was done. So I think it was a good job. We had good advice and good planning on it, but it's just used constantly, and you have just wear and tear of our facilities requires that we be attentive to it, and I think this will be well appreciated when it's completed.
Are we using the same people that originally installed this to do it?
I think it's a derivative of a similar group, but I'm not so sure it's the exact group itself.
I know the Field Turfs who did that, and they're associated with them, but
Yeah, I
wasn't
think
sure
there's
if it's the same
there's a
people.
connection, but I'm not sure if it's exactly the same, but it's
Right.
affiliated.
Okay. All
I
right.
think the other unique thing about this track as well is it's primarily used by the schools, but it's open to the public as well.
It
So
is.
it has people on it.
Used.
all
This
the
has
time.
continuous use, it's rarely shut down, and if it's shut down, it's usually being used for a special purpose. So it is have constant use out there.
I was out there, I guess, 2 weekends ago for the AAC Conference Championship with Milligan out there, and there were so many people running on it, and it was continuous for 2 straight days. And I know that's just one of the many events that go on out there, and they want to come back, so I'm sure if we have a new track, that will help.
Vice Mayor, you pointed out something that all the commissioners have mentioned in the past, that this is just not a high school track. This is open to the public, number one. Number two, it is such a standard of excellence at that facility that we have collegiate groups using it as well as invitational groups coming in there. So this is something that's an attraction for a lot of outside groups.
We have the field events too, the discus throw, the shot put, the javelin, and I mean, this is a unique feature that we have at high school that's just pretty amazing.
How many high schools have collegiate activities, usually the other way around, that the
High
collegiate
schools
college use the college facilities, so this is very unique.
Do I have a motion? Or we don't need that yet.
We got
We're
one
gonna-
more. Yeah.
One more to pull.
Thank you.
7.4.1.
Yes, and I think Mr. Best is here, and we may need Mr. Trivet as well as myself, Andy, if you want us to help you out as well.
Sure. What are your questions?
This was,
Yeah, it's the one I pulled. How are you?
Good, have a seat.
Good to see you. I understand that we have this RFQ from Mattern and Craig Engineers.
Yes.
And we also have city staff that's retiring soon, I
Yes.
guess tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, correct.
And so the intents and purposes, based on what I understand, the reason why we are doing this construction engineering contract, inspection contract with Mathern and Craig is because we don't have in-house staff to do it? Is that-
So when this project started a year ago, thereabout, we had actually looked at hiring a construction engineering inspector at that point in time. We discussed it. We felt we had adequate staff or talent to be able to watch the project in-house, so we decided to save the money at that time. With our current person who is retiring, we just do not have the capacity currently to use another inspector, and right now we have not identified a replacement for him.
Okay, so, so we can outsource this for $45,000
Yes,
to a company,
yes.
but can we save money by hiring somebody to do it ourselves in-house?
Uh,
That's, it's not gonna cost us $345,000 to hire somebody for
Correct.
essentially 2 years.
It's a timeline type of, right now, again, with the applicants that we have to replace him, I don't know that we have an individual that would be able to get up to speed fast enough. Usually on projects like TDOT projects, for an example, they require an engineering inspector, someone with engineering background, to come in and inspect projects. So for an example, Mattern and Craig actually did the engineering inspection on the roundabout on Mountain View. So right now, we were fortunate in that we had someone in this position that actually had a lot of engineering background. So right now, our applicants just do not have that experience as far as construction inspection. So is it possible? It could be. I just don't know the time frame to be able to get someone in to actually be able to inspect the project, and that's why we're presenting it to you tonight, is just so we have that inspector who has the experience, who can resolve the issues that we have, during where there's conflicts or utilities, that type of thing, that understand what they're looking at.
Does this add on to the total project cost, or?
Yes, it's in a contingency, is that?
It was, so, Mr. Best, if I could.
Sure,
And it's my understanding, and Mr. Trivet and I have been working to pull together some documents from understanding more about the beginning of the project. It was my understanding that at the beginning of the project, this was anticipated to be done through an outside source. And at that point in time, the money was allocated in the project to do this. It was through having this person that I think the department felt like they could have an inside inspector do it. I would say comfortably that the services that we would be getting from Mattern and Craig are a higher level even than we were able to do internally. The internal staff person was not able to do only this work 40% of 40 hours a week.
Correct.
So we're actually, it's comparing apples to oranges. We had someone really working part-time doing inspection. I think this work calls for an inspector to be on site the whole time work is going on, and to have an engineer work so many hours a week. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's like 40 hours total on site, and then so much review time.
So it's a different level of service even than what we were doing in-house. And it wasn't because of the person, it was just because of the limitations and the ability of a person to do that, plus they had other work.
Correct.
That they had to do.
Yeah, our inspector, he mowing, other things that were on his plate also.
And this is a very complex project. It's a lot bigger, and it entails a lot more work than maybe building a road or a section of road where our inspectors would be able to do that. So it is a complex project, And water and sewer already has outside engineering services contracted to do their part of this Walnut Street project too. So this would kind of match up and align well with what they're already doing and make sure that the project goes in as designed and as scheduled by the contractor.
So I think to answer your question of could we hire someone for this amount of money, I think it would take more than just one person to be able to adequately do the amount of inspection work that needs to be done at this point in the project. So up until this point, most of the work has been underground. So it's been mostly water, sewer, and some storm drainage. Now we're talking about everything that's happening now is in the public works arena. I mean, we're close to that point. So the time requirements really, if this gentleman, if Rick wasn't retiring, we would probably have to put more internal resources on the project anyway. This project was bid out. We did have another proposal that was significantly higher, $200,000 higher.
What, does this inspection also include when the electric and gas, broadband, that kind of thing starts going underground? Do they oversee that as well?
Yes, that's part of the
They,
public works.
they oversee where it goes, so all of those companies have their own inspector that makes sure
Right.
theirs is put in properly, but we make sure that it aligns with the roadway and that there's an appropriate amount of cover. And so that is the responsibility of the part of the inspector to follow the construction plans and make sure everything on the plan is installed accordingly.
For the city's best interest.
Yeah.
So as of tomorrow, we have no inspector, correct? Because of the retired personnel, and we're just looking to,
His last day is tomorrow.
Okay.
However, Water and Sewer does have an inspector on site. Wallace's group is actually going to be out there in the interim. Engineering will be kind of project managing this project until we either approve this or go in a different direction.
what are the other options?
I think this would be our recommendation to move forward. I think if this did not get approved, we would go back and look at how we would bring enough people on staff to be able to cover that and to feel like we could get it done and get it done correctly, which would probably mean at least adding two to 2.5 individuals to work on this.
But there will be a large ramp-up period for,
Extremely large hiring
People-
process, even if we're able to, right now, just finding people to do this kind of work is a challenge. The other option is to go back to the engineer and say, we want you there half the time and see if we could cut back on the amount of time that the engineer's there. I don't think we're comfortable with doing that with a large investment that's being made in this project. It is a significant amount of money, but considering the overall investment of the whole project, I don't think we want to risk it not being done correctly. But if the commission asks us, we would come back with other options.
To give you an example, before you all hired me, you would hire a consultant or someone to look over the school constructions or any city building constructions, and you paid that person 1% of whatever the cost was. Well, you look at this project's $34 million. This is 1% of that to be oversight and oversee this project to its completion. And so with the inspector and with the engineer. And then also, if we look at having to hire multiple people to cover this, that's going to hit the general fund, and that's going to be a cost to that because those people are going to be employees and staff of Public Works. And this is a outside contract that's already in the budget, so you won't see a change order for this. It's already in that $34 million, whether it's in inspection services that they already had in there and they were looking at trying to save money using in-house staff, or whether it's used by contingency.
So this is really 2 or 2.5 people, and how long do you think the project, they will be overseeing this?
It's another year and a half, isn't it?
December of 23, I believe.
So 18 months worth? Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No, sir. All right. Yeah. So, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent.
second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler.
Yes.
Commission, next you have some ordinances for first reading. The first one is an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of Eastern 8 Community Development Corporation, a certain parcel of real property owned by the city of Johnson City and located in the 9th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, upon the terms and conditions contained herein, and repeal all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewithin. And I think that the gentleman from Eastern 8 thought that he was done, and he has left the building. So, Peyton,
That
can
was
you-
with that first item. So you guys
Yeah,
are
so
pretty
this
much just
was-
voting on the ordinance of what you already heard.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yep.
Commissioner
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler.
Yes.
Next, and I think Peyton, you're able to stay with us. Next is the first reading of an ordinance to rezone approximately 16 acres located at Dalton Drive from R2 District to R2C District.
Good evening, Commissioners. In front of you, I have a request for the rezoning of approximately 16 acres going from R2 to R2C in order to allow for a 55-lot single-family subdivision. Here is the site plan, and I've got a breakdown of the site data table right over here on this side. So as you see, there's a proposed 55 single-family lots. The minimum lot size that you see on here would be 6,000 square feet. However, the average proposed lot size is 9,000 square feet. The lot width, the minimum is going to be 60 feet, and the average is going to be 70. And I bring that up because I know that there's been a lot of discussion around the R2C. And so I want to take a minute and address some of, the design aspects of this site. This site is what planning would consider a great infill site. There's already utilities out to it. It's just putting development where, it's kind of not been, and filling in that hole. And so in order to make this site work for the developer, sometimes we have to get a little flexible, and that's where that R2C comes in. So as you can see, although the minimum, which allows for that flexibility to get the 55 lots, does fit with the R2C, the average actually fits a little bit more in line with the R2B. But in order to give the developer the flexibility to fit this sort of odd-shaped lot with the design that he wanted, he's requested the R2C. Now, the surrounding zoning is all residential. As you can see, it abuts the R4. There's another R2C right over here. You've got an RP3 and R4 over here. And while it is adjacent to the R2, it is still in character with the surrounding zoning. And staff believes that it can be a good transition zone as you're going from this R4 to a slightly less intense R2C to the R2. The future land use map does propose that this site go residential, so that's in line with that. Here's a photo of the site. It's absolutely beautiful. There was a neighborhood meeting. There were 4 people in attendance. There were some concerns with traffic. The traffic concerns actually predominantly were about Greenwood Drive, which is off-site from this rezoning proposal. Planning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 9-0, and staff is recommending approval.
Peyton, access to this location would be off Greenwood and Antioch as well, or just
So
Greenwood?
this, and I can show you here in this vicinity map. So this is Greenwood, and it would access off of, you could get Plantation Drive over to Dalton Drive, or you could get Greenwood and you could go New Bern over to Dalton Drive. So it's pretty much just connecting.
So we'll be
right
going
here.
through neighborhoods, though, to get to it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so the traffic concerns were the point, predominantly it was Plantation Drive and Greenwood Drive, this intersection.
Can I see the lot map again?
What was that?
Can I see the lot map, the map with the lots on it? Sorry. Actually, it was far
This
back.
one?
Okay, I couldn't remember, so it does
So it's
connect
got
through
3
all the
connectors
way.
really to get into the neighborhood.
Yes, and this is a proposed future one, so there's not going to be any development going over here, but just in case that lot develops in the future so it can connect.
Thank you.
But yes, these are as of right now, these are the 2 connections to Dalton Drive.
Vice Mayor, I'll make a motion if there's no other comment.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
To approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This is just right behind Grace Church.
No, I think it's closer to the softball field, right?
I'm not familiar with Grace Church.
Or isn't ETSU on that side? It might-
Just so I know exactly where we're talking, will you go back? Okay, right there. Isn't that Grace right straight down from it?
Maybe, yeah, I think
It
you're right.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
Is it Grace?
Uh,
It's not Grace.
It's close.
Past Grace.
Oh, it almost backs up to Willis Springs subdivision right there, right? Right.
Yeah, there's Willow Springs.
And the new R2C homes, I can see them there.
Discussion? Anyone? All right. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
and Vice Mayor Fowler.
Yes.
And at our next second reading, we will have public input, correct?
Public hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
Commission, your next order of business is an ordinance to revise the code of the City of Johnson City to define the beer board as the legislative authority to regulate and supervise the issuance of beer license, to require applicant appearance during consideration of the beer license application, to allow a temporary business beer license, to designate all nonprofit organizations qualified to apply for a temporary occasion beer license, and to allow dispensing equipment by amending Title 8, Chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the Code of the City of Johnson City, and to repeal all ordinances and parts of ordinance in conflict herewithin.
Ms. Sandos?
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. So what you have before you for consideration are a series of revisions to Title 8 to Chapters 1 and 2. You've got 6 different proposed revisions for your consideration. The revision to 81015, with adding the definition of a beer board, that is a housekeeping revision. The state legislature authorizes local municipalities to create a beer board, and it is created by your local elected officials. You are the beer board. There are parts of our Title 8 that refer to the beer board. There are parts that refer to the Board of Commissioners. What this does is it provides clarification on that language that the two are synonymous.
Is there a way to call it a beverage board instead of a beer board?
No, because we govern beer.
Spirits?
All right, so canned. spirits.
82101, that puts into writing a requirement that has always been verbally issued to the applicants. It requires their presence at the meetings. 82102, that is a new section. That creates a temporary business beer license. There's been multiple meetings that we've held with Development Services, with legal, and then a few other staff members throughout the city to address some of the concerns that we hear from applicants regarding the timeframe of completing businesses, the timeframe of renovating new businesses or renovating older existing businesses. There seems to be, there's a time gap between when some work can be completed versus when they can be placed onto the agenda. What we've done is created a section that hopefully is more friendly to those applicants. What the temporary business beer license does is it creates an avenue for the building department to be able to proffer testimony to each of you during the meeting, whenever you're wearing your billboard hat, to tell you that they anticipate that the business is going to have these things completed to be able to get their certificate of substantial completion. So it can only be the certificate or the photographs. Those can be the only two items missing to be able to qualify for this temporary license. Meaning they still have to have health inspections. They still have to have met all the other requirements that are present in the application. That temporary license would be valid for 30 days, no more than 30 days. But what that does, it allows these businesses to be able to open their doors. Well, they should be open already. A lot of places are already open without the service of beer. But it'll allow them to be able to start serving, selling, and storing beer.
Is there ability to renew if there was something that happened that caused a delay in the 30 days and need another 30 days? Just curious.
No. The way that it's written is it's a one-time, meaning, and the reason that it's written as a one-time is because our building department will be coming and saying, we anticipate this is going to be done. We know that they're right at the finish line, and we don't anticipate any hurdles for them. It can only be issued once. It cannot be renewed. If they do not complete their work at the expiration of that 30 days, they will have to apply again. Once they've completed their work, they do have to come back before you, though, because your board cannot approve a license without complete applications, which is what's stated in the ordinance. So you have to consider the complete application before the full and final issuance of the beer license.
So we can give them a temporary for 30 days, but they still have to come back
Once they're
and get,
complete.
once they're completed and get it again.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This allows the opportunity to get open a little earlier. Any further questions with regard to that section?
Do you think we'll ever find ourselves in a situation where the 30 days is coming to a close and we're 2 weeks away from our next meeting and they have to kind of close down serving until they can come back 2 weeks later?
That's a good question.
I believe we'd be able to take that on a case-by-case basis. The idea is that whenever our building department certifies to you that they are close, that means they would be within 30 days of being done. If there was some exigent circumstance that delayed that progress that was due to no fault of the applicant, we would be able to take that into consideration.
Is there any value, or could we put something in the 30-day restrictions that would allow us to extend it if we know that it is imminent in the next few days?
That is something that we can look at including.
Okay.
We'll look at some ideal proposed language that can be considered on second reading. 8214.2, 8214.2 and 8215.1 both have the same impact. It's just referenced in two different sections. That removes the specific 501c designations for the nonprofits. There's a lot of different nonprofits, different designations. The way that the ordinance reads right now, it is limited to 3s and 4s. It removes the specific designation, opens it up to different nonprofits like 6s or 8s.
14s.
So we're just saying now, any nonprofit?
Correct. It's any qualified charitable organization, bona fide nonprofit. And 8228, that's a large addition to Title 8. That addresses dispensing equipment. This is fairly new technology in the state of Tennessee. It's not real common nationwide. It is new. They're coming around, and the way that our current ordinance reads, we prohibit this type of technology. Not the technology itself, but the mechanism for the distribution, for dispensing the beer. So we have looked at different ordinances and different laws across the state of Tennessee, kind of as a guiding tool to see what would it look like in Johnson City. How can we adapt this to fit our city? The section that we've come up with, that we've drafted for your consideration, the licensee to have dispensing equipment must come before you to get approval. They have to have an on-premise license currently, meaning they can be approved and then present, or it can be an existing business that's incorporating this new technology. So they have to hold the Class 1 beer license. They have to have a licensee that's going to monitor the sales, service, and consumption of the beer from the self-dispensing equipment. They have to ensure compliance with all the state and local laws and ordinances. The dispensing equipment has to be affixed permanently on location. Can't be mobile, it can't be on wheels. It needs to be permanently affixed. We're going to require wristbands for those that are present on the premises. Essentially, anybody age 14 and up, or appears to be 14 and up, will be required to have a wristband. Between the ages of 14 to 20, they will have a distinctive color wristband. These are the non-tamper, which you'd have to pull off or cut off. 21 and up has a different color, distinctive non-tamper wristband. Those that are electing to purchase beer to be able from the self-dispensing equipment will have another band, and that's one that has the microchip embedded in it. That's what you pay with, and that's what actually causes the equipment to dispense. At least 50% of the licensee's gross revenue has to be derived from food sales. We'll calculate that on a 12-month period. No one under the age of 21 is allowed in the permitted premises after 9 p.m. In some of the other areas that we looked at, 7 p.m. was the time that we saw across the state in the ordinances that we were reading.
Say that again, make sure I followed you. Who would not be,
Anyone under the age of 21 after 9 p.m.
could not be in the area?
Correct. Could not be on the premises. The reason that's extended is because if the location wants to be a restaurant as well, you would need to have it later for folks under the age of 21.
I mean, a 16-year-old could be inside the restaurant,
They can be inside the restaurant.
okay, but just not out where the dispensing occurs.
Well, no, they cannot be on the premises.
So they
If-
couldn't be
if
there
the-
after 9 o'clock for
Yeah.
any reason.
So
in
if
the
a
building.
family's inside and it turns to be 9:05 and they're eating dinner, they're gonna have to get up and leave?
Yeah, we're extending that for Johnson City to make it later than
That's
across
what
the
we're
state.
hoping for, to extend it to 10 o'clock at least.
She's saying they went from 7 to 9.
Yeah, we've extended it to make Johnson City a more,
Friendly place.
yeah, that's the goal, that you can have your kids with you while you're getting your beer.
I guess I'm having a hard time following just
Could we
the
look at-
time thing, because at 8 o'clock they can be out there with you and there, people are getting beer, but
Could-
then when it turns 9, you can't.
Could we look at pushing that to 10 or 11?
We can look at that.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to do.
I mean, it's a restaurant too. We know where this first one's going to be, and I can see families being there,
After
you know,
9
eating
o'clock
and not
at night.
even,
Yeah.
you know, in the area where this is
So
gonna
some
be.
of, we can certainly look at extending that time.
Okay.
Some of the ordinances that we looked at, whenever we were looking at what would apply, the written ones for the state do not allow anybody under the age of 21 to be present without a guardian or a parent. We know that we're in a college town, we've got a lot of folks that are under the age of 20, 21, that will still frequent these places for the food. So we're opening up there, we're extending the hours, but we can certainly look at pushing those hours back later.
So if it were just a pub, I could certainly see that from a timing standpoint, but when you've got really the primary is a restaurant, I could see it would be difficult for a family if they're there.
And that's a good point, since we are going to be requiring, our requirement that 50% of the gross sales of revenue be generated from food sales, that's unique to ours as well. We're going to make sure that this is somewhere that is serving food and not just a pub. So that's certainly a reasonable consideration that we can look at to push that time back. We have language in the ordinance regarding the server that's required to be at the self-dispensing equipment. We've heard that position called a wall ambassador. But they have to be a certified server, have a server's card, be able to comply with all the state and local laws. We have language about where they must be, how they must check the identification, when they can serve or initiate the microchip, when it can go a second time, because there's limitations on how many times the microchip will serve, how many ounces can be utilized on each purchase, and that's addressed as well. We address the number of servers that would need to be required. That'd be one for every 25 permitted patrons.
The number of servers based on the patrons who participate in that, because you could go with a group and only one or two out of that group is going to get the wristband and get their own beer.
Are these servers also the waiters and waitresses that are going to be waiting on tables, or are they just the people standing back by the beer dispenser? Because if you've got 24 people, you're going to have, if you've got 4 people in a group, that's 6 tables. You're going to have a waiter for 6 tables, 1 waiter or more for that. So if you think you got 100 people there, that's 25 tables. You're going to have 4 waiters or waitresses there, but
We require that they must remain within sight line of the taps.
Which running in and out and getting food and all over.
I think if the commission wanted us to go back and do some more research on that, we'd be happy to. My understanding of the way that food is served is that you go up and order and it's brought to your table. So there isn't a server completely dedicated to the table. I think the whole premise of folks going to this is the lack of people available to wait on tables or to be available. So I think the level of service that you get even for your food is very different than you might get in a what we typically think of a normal restaurant.
So these servers, the wall ambassadors that are required for this area, they are essentially a gatekeeper to get into this permitted area. It's open, but it's got
it's an area.
It's got a little.
It's a defined area.
Correct. You can't go in there unless you have been properly authorized to enter that area. That's what these servers are doing. So somebody will go up to that server. They'll purchase what they want, which is no more than 28 ounces per purchase. They have to be ID'd, so they have to show their ID, prove that they are who they are, that they are over the age of 21, they're legally permitted to consume alcohol. Then they'll receive their wristband, and that band is linked to their ID and to their payment method. Whenever they go in, if they get 12 ounces this time, and they pour it and they leave. It can dispense no more than 12 at a time, but they can sample however they need to do that. They leave, they go back to the table, they come back. They don't have to be ID'd again. They go on in, get their other 12, they leave. They can come back, don't have to be ID'd again. They get their last 4, they leave. Whenever they come back again, if they enter right up there and try to get it, the machines won't dispense. So they have to go back over to their person. So this is increasing the number of people that are essentially the gatekeeper. But we can link it to the actual wristbands. That's probably a very reasonable request.
Solve your problem is how many people have the wristbands that are getting the beer distributed.
Or if the servers who are serving food also can act as that group.
Do both.
Yeah.
Can they do both?
I think that they would struggle to comply with the ordinance if they were not standing as essentially the gatekeeper to enter into this equipment. What that's preventing is somebody sliding off a band and somebody without the proper color of their non-tamper going in there and utilizing.
I think from an enforcement standpoint, I think it would be easier for us to look at having the number of people tied to the number of people who have activated bans
Yeah, I think
as
that's a
opposed to the
great
number of people on premise, because essentially the reason that person's there is to make sure that whoever enters that perimeter. And if somebody happens to be serving food and walking away, I wouldn't want that establishment, because that person turns their back or something, to be penalized or to lose their license
Gotcha.
because of that.
Yeah, I think if it's tied to the bands, I think that'd be a great idea.
Or when someone shows up with their 5 kids who are clearly not of drinking age. No, that's a very reasonable request. And this is new for all of us. It's brand-new technology. This is a brand-new ordinance. So this is what we're working through it. But everything that we've talked about tonight, these are revisions that can be made with the ordinance proceeding to second reading. So I've got a number of them written down.
And in this case, I think this is unique. I think this is, we are trying to make sure that we are protecting the public while also allowing new technology and looking into the future on what's happening. I think through the course of these readings, there will be additional research that we do, additional information that we get. But I would also encourage us to put this on our radar after it's approved, to come back in 6 months and say, how is this working? When we do something that's very different, it's good to have a check-in and say, did this work the way that we thought it would?
Yeah, because honestly, I don't know that having a number of servers or wall guards or whatever tied to the number of people necessarily makes a great sense, in that maybe it's tied to how many access points there are to the beer, where if you've got 2 access points, you've got 2 dedicated people. I mean, if you had, depending on the size of the facility, if you had 250 people, you're going to have 10 guards at 2 access points just piled up, or, I mean,
Probably not
but anyways, yeah, I think we can bring it back.
I think we're looking at ordinances across the state
Sure.
and trying to mirror what they're doing. Every establishment's probably different. I think the concept of having an enclosed area, or at least a recognizable area that you can only be in this area if you have that band on that allows you to dispense alcohol. We're very open to, as we see things like this come on board, to coming back with changes and recommendations. Because, like I said, we're relying on other cities that have done this, and I'm sure that those establishments all vary in the way that they're set up and the way that they operate. So we will take another look at this one. I think we've flagged looking at the hours that children can be on site, as well as looking at the number of wall guards, or whatever we're calling them. And then if you want to go through the rest of them, Sonny, and we welcome feedback.
Just an added thing that I think that John brought up, which kind of makes a little bit of sense, that maybe the walled area is a perimeter around the dispensing machines, not the seating out here where games are being played,
It
that
definitely
kind of
would be.
thing.
So the
Yeah,
walled area
yeah.
would be around the dispensing area, so
Yeah.
no one underage could be within that distinct area, so it couldn't be the larger
Just like how
perimeter.
many, supervisors do you need if they come into this area and it's just, a smaller place?
And the ordinance as it's written does require that there be a distinctive perimeter around the self-dispensing equipment.
And that's what you have monitored.
Yeah. And we've had one presentation of an idea of what this could look like in Johnson City. We would anticipate that there will be more in the future. As technology advances and becomes more affordable for different businesses, they will incorporate it. And we don't want to create something for one place whenever it cannot be applied to others, because it needs to be open. So these are things that continue to open that up and make it a little more applicable to other applicants. So the last things, the last few sections of the ordinance do address that the Wristband must be removed. It must be removed from any intoxicated customer. At the close of the day, it has to be disabled. Now, we do require also, if there is any malfunction with the dispensing equipment, that the wristbands be deactivated. We do limit opening up that equipment to whenever the business is closed. So that's another provision in this proposed ordinance.
And that's kind of the brains of the engine. It has to be within an enclosed area. It must be locked.
Any
Are
further
there other
questions?
changes
Do you
on
have
the?
other sections we're going to talk about, or is that the end?
That was the last one. That is 6 sections that we are revising at this time.
I was curious, was a section, I think, related to serving outdoor events or whatever. in the-
Special events.
And
It
the
was
type
in
of
there.
containers
Yeah.
that could be used, has that been looked at?
That is not, I've consulted with police on that, and there are still some concerns with regard to public safety and being able to identify what's being consumed. Nowadays, we have, even water can come in cans that are not easily identifiable as water. Whenever there's a large crowd with a limited number of public safety officers, knowing that what the alcohol is contained in makes it quicker and easier for their enforcement.
In this ordinance, is this where we limit to Founder's Park and King Commons where we can have outdoor festival alcohol?
That is not addressed in this series of revisions. That is something that we are researching. So we're looking at where is the limiting areas for the city. And we have to determine what language is appropriate to be able to open it up without opening Pandora's box and having unintended consequences for the locations that
Can we-
would suddenly be permitted.
Can we look into allowing it on city property and coming to us, places like Rotary Park, if somebody wanted to have something there, that they may be able to do the same kind of serving?
You would have to make the equipment not permanently fixed if you did, right?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about self-dispensing or?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no.
Just
no, no,
special
just
events.
special
with
events.
served beer.
Well, we still have certain distance requirements between parks, playgrounds, schools, and religious establishments.
Right.
So we're in the process of getting the mapping area to see
Where we might be
where
able to
you
do
could
it.
do those.
Yeah, on city property that's in the right places and
Right.
doesn't have churches or playgrounds or those kind of things by it.
Zoning, so we allow, our ordinance is written that we actually allow alcohol in some of our parks. It's not a blanket prohibition, it's just based upon the zoning. Beyond our flood mitigation areas, we only have one other park that is Zone B2, which is the permitted area. So you have to make sure that it's in a proper zoned area. You have to make sure that it meets the site distance requirements from the areas that it cannot be next to. But if we rezoned certain areas, you would be able to,
Figure out which ones those are.
we're working on it, and we have a start to
Okay,
that
all right.
process.
Thank you.
I think we have to prepare for West Walnut Street. I mean, the redesign of that's going to be very attractive for special events, so we need to think about that.
And we need to look at what the city-owned property is going to be there, to see how we make it fit. I haven't looked at the design, or at the zoning on West Market. It might be B2.
A lot of it's B3, isn't it?
Oh, well, I was just going to say, at least by second reading, I'd like to get, and maybe you can do it tonight. I'm still a little perplexed on what are they trying to identify. I mean, if the police are trying to identify it, my assumption is that they're looking at somebody who's causing a scene, and it doesn't necessarily, I mean, seeing a clear cup with stuff in it, I don't know necessarily, unless I'm just missing something, would make any difference between somebody without a cup who may have had a cup earlier that's causing a scene. And so,
I don't know that the concern comes from those that are causing scenes. They're going to address those situations as they arise.
Right.
There is concern over underage drinking.
And these are on special events where people are ID'd and banded.
Correct, but special events, now we've opened up the beer permitted areas to the entire festival grounds for many of them, so they're not contained to a specific location any longer. Folks are drinking all over the parks now.
So, just so I'm clear in my mind, because when I first read this, and by the way, my whole packet didn't download on my iPad tonight.
Yeah.
Didn't either, yeah.
No, I've got,
Oh, you do?
that's all I got.
But the section that addressed, we can do this in Founder's Park, King Commons, and all that, was in that document. What you're saying is that we just haven't addressed or updated or talked about amending that part of it because of some of the conversation that we've been having.
Yes.
Okay.
The section that addressed the King Commons and Founders, that section was revised to reflect that there's no specific designation on those nonprofits that are eligible to have the special events, to be able to receive the temporary occasion beer license. Previously, we designated it to 501c3 or 501c4. We've removed their specific designations of the 3 and the 4 and opened it up just to the qualified nonprofits.
I thought what we had talked about was if there's a request that is not in one of those locations, that it could come before the commission for consideration anyway.
We're researching that. That's what we've got to conduct some additional research on. What are all those city-owned properties? Where could this potentially be utilized? Where would those requests possibly come from? Are there any that just do not make sense based on their proximity to those prohibited areas? And also, what zones are they in? Are they in areas that permit this type of consumption? So we have to conduct a little more research to be able to bring that to you.
So what I'm hearing is that before we come back to you with second reading, we would look at the issue related to time and children being on site, the number of ambassadors, the type of container that you could use
For the special event.
for special events, and city-owned properties that would meet the qualifications.
Those last two, whenever we're able to bring those to you, they would be for first reading.
Okay.
That would substantially change materially what we've have presented.
Start over with those two, but the others two are included in this one.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you, Sonny.
Any more further questions?
So with some of those things that need to be researched, that it's even on the automated dispensing, how will that impact us voting on this tonight?
That would just
I
be a
understand.
change in that would just be a small change in what she's coming to us with.
It
so
could be
it wouldn't
amended on second reading, right?
Yes, ma'am. As long as we do not change the caption and we do not materially change the substance of what's contained within the proposed
Hours or little
ordinances.
things.
As long as it does not run the risk of confusing the public or being misleading. Changing the time, changing the number of the ambassadors, those are changes that would be permissible. They wouldn't be considered a substantial material change to the ordinance.
Do I have a motion?
We'll move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Thank you, Sandos.
Commission, you have two ordinances for third reading. The first ordinance is an ordinance to rezone .885 acres at 1105 Emeryville Road from R2 district to R2C district to create 4 single-family lots. Peyton?
Good evening, Commissioners. The applicant would actually like to address the commission, if that's okay.
Yes.
Hello,
Mr.
Commissioners.
Bagley?
I would like to request that you defer your vote on that tonight until your May 18th meeting,
19th.
19th, I'm sorry.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we defer to the 19th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy? Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Your next ordinance for third reading is an ordinance to convey a certain parcel of real property owned by the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, located in the 5th Civil District of Unicoi County, Tennessee, to the town of Unicoi. And that's Assistant City Manager Stahl.
Are there any changes since
Mr.
second reading?
Stahl.
There is no changes to this, and to my knowledge, I think the town of Unicoi has formally voted to make the purchase if this ordinance goes through and things proceed forth.
And
I'll
they're
make
going to use this facility for EMS.
EMS,
Which would be a
and
great
that's my understanding of the
repurposing it,
intent.
yeah.
I'll make the motion to
Do I have a
approve.
motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Commission, your last order of business for tonight is a concept plan amendment for 911 East Market Street, to consider approval of an amendment to a previously approved concept plan between East Market Street and Tannery Knobs. And we have Will with us tonight.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Fowler, Commissioners, Mrs. Ball. This property was rezoned from I-2 heavy industrial to R4 medium density residential back in 2015. Anytime there's a rezoning to a R4 zoning district, it requires a concept plan. This is for property. I'll go to this other slide first. This is the property that's in question, this undeveloped property on East Market Street, right down the street here from City Hall in the vicinity of the South Broadway Market. This is the portion in the blue outlined area that would be, that's being considered tonight for the concept plan amendment. The original plan back in 2015 was for the development of a housing authority project of 168 apartment units. There were two entrances, one on Broadway, one on South Broadway, and one on Market Street. That project did not materialize. Therefore, the applicant, in this case, Grant Summers, proposed, this concept plan came by way of preliminary plat originally, which the Planning Commission has subdivision authority, and they approved this preliminary plat for the development, for the creation of 16 lots for single-family development. There are 8 cuts that are currently depicted as transportation easements that will straddle the property line to minimize the number of curb cuts we have in the multi-use sidewalk. There's 60-foot lots. You can see the R4 zoning requires a 50-foot lot width, so these are a little bit wider lots, which is good. Staff believes that this concept plan is more compatible with the existing single-family neighborhood that you can see here, and we're recommending approval.
Did you address the driveway?
I'm sorry?
The driveway issue? I think you talked about the residents sharing a driveway.
Correct.
Is that still the case?
That's still the case. The zoning code requires that there be 2 required parking spaces for a single-family house. That can come in the way of either a driveway or a garage. The concept plan, the preliminary plat, which was approved by the Planning Commission, is also serving as the concept plan. On the preliminary plat, we have access easements showing where future driveway locations will be. Following approval of a preliminary, so you're considering the concept plan amendment, which would take it from 168 apartments to 66 family lots. Ensuring that those, that 2-space on-premise parking requirement is met will ensure that happens through the construction plan process after the preliminary plat leading up to final plat, and also when building plans are submitted after final plat approval. So that was one of the concerns that the neighbors had in the neighborhood meeting, was the possibility of on-street parking. That's always a concern in any development, and we can't limit the number of cars that people own, but this should satisfy this will satisfy the 2 parking space
What's the
requirement.
length of the driveways?
These, well,
Up
that
to
will
the
be.
garage door?
That will be to be determined when they submit their building plans that depict if they're going to have garages, if they're not going to have garages. There's adequate room on here. This, to give you an idea, these are 60 feet wide. That makes each one of these lot lines about 118, 120 feet in length. I didn't memorize them, and I can't see them. But these are, the average lot size is about 7,100 square feet, so that would make each lot approximately 60.
Yeah.
So that's about 120 right there, so they'll have, and of course, if the garage is front-facing, it would require a 25-foot front setback, which allows for parking in the front in the driveway, or if it's side-facing, it would be a 20-foot setback. But the exact dimensions of those driveways we'll review through the construction plans and when the building plans are submitted.
I think there's quite a bit of on-street parking on that section of Market anyway, isn't there?
I've noticed it on the other side of the street where the existing houses are.
Well, there's not any houses except down closer to the old chamber building.
Right.
Yeah.
The other concern from the neighbors were the number of curb cuts. They like the 8-foot multi-path, or the 8-foot sidewalk. We do too. We wanted, originally when this came in, it had 16 curb cuts, so we asked the developer, can we minimize the number of curb cuts and just have 8 curb cuts instead of 16? By having shared driveways, they complied, and so we're pleased with that. Overall, the 4 neighbors that came to the neighborhood meeting, they were quite pleased that this is going from 168 apartments to 16 houses.
Are these townhouses or single-family,
They're-
one-story?
The intent is to have, it's a single family houses for sale, traditional type single-family development.
Thank you. Any more questions? Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. Anything else?
I think that concludes all the business the staff has.
All right. Well, I'm going to do ladies first. Commissioner Brock, you have anything else?
Well, I think Mr. Floyd did a very nice job about our trip to Greenville, South Carolina. And it was a great trip. I'll only speak for myself, just to see the way Greenville did their redevelopment downtown. And to the public, our city manager was the chief engineer, or an engineer there that helped with that process. And we got to see some of the work that she did. And very, very nice sidewalk there for sure. But I want to thank the commission. It was a great time to really see the sequence of events on how Greenville approached things, and it really gave us a lot of ideas that we have a number of dominoes that need to kind of fall in order to really help support our downtown. But anyway, great trip. Thank you for planning that for us, Ms. Ball.
Commissioner Hunter?
Nothing to add.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes, sir. I enjoyed the trip last week. Was able to meet some really good people. Their downtown is beautiful. I believe that Greenville has some things that we as a city could model. I look forward to having more dialogue and discussion amongst those in the community to also get input from our citizens. But overall, the trip was a really good time invested.
I do have one other thing.
Go ahead.
My husband and I had lunch today at El Charlos in the Kroger Shopping Center.
Kroger, yeah.
And they gave us a T-shirt to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. And in fact, they're giving T-shirts if you want to do a little pitch for them.
We're getting out early enough, somebody can go
And
do
they
a little-
are amazing shirts. So you'll see me with this big rooster kind of celebrating Cinco de Mayo. It's really cool, yeah. So happy Cinco de Mayo. That's Monday?
It's today.
Today.
Oh, it's today.
5th of May.
Well, no wonder I got the shirt today. I've been a little brain foggy.
COVID fog. Anything else? All right, I will say we are adjourned.